Welcome to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin. I believe every man has the potential to push past his limits and strive for something greater. Whether you're a former athlete who is looking for what's next, a professional pushing through the daily grind, or someone simply ready to break through life's toughest challenges, you're ready to step into the pursuit of something more. Your pursuit begins now. All right, welcome back to Men Pursuing More podcast. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and I want to welcome Brian Wheeler, or Baldy, to the podcast. Brian, let's get right into it, and can you share with the listeners about growing up near, I think, the St. Louis, Missouri area, and some of the highlights and kind of some of the challenges along your journey growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Moberly, Missouri, which is about 30 minutes north of Columbia, Missouri. My family is a big-time family in Missouri. They owned Orchland Farm and Homes, and they started all that stuff. So I grew up in that environment in Moberly, Missouri until I was in sixth grade. It was just me and my mom. I never knew who my real biological father was. So we lived there, and then she met a man, and Dale, he took over, and he adopted me, made me like I was his real child, and we moved to St. Genevieve, Missouri in third grade. And coming from a town where everybody knows you and you're sitting with the family name to a town that you better be from that town or you're not going to be really accepted. And at that point in time, I'm sure it's changed now 20 years later, but when we moved in, it was pretty rough when we moved in. And I just grew up in that mentality of we should be like my other side of the family, rich and powerful and all those things. And we weren't. My dad was a 70-hour worker mechanic, and he just did everything he could do to make the family move in the right direction. But he was gone a lot. There was times for me to lead down the wrong path and get going down different ways there. Growing up, not a single mom. It's hard to say that. He's home every Sunday, but he was gone all during the week. So you go to a new school and you're working on those types of juggling that as a young boy, and you're from a different town. I moved a little different. I had a little swag to me and a little movement with me that those kids weren't used to. And they used to always say in fifth and sixth grade, like, you're the blackest guy living in St. Genevieve. And at that point in time, there was only a couple black kids in the whole school. So it was those are my people. So we hung out and we did our things. And those were just some of the things we went through when we were younger there, of just navigating who you are in a new town.
And then I think you moved on to, did you experience a couple of different high schools?
Yeah.
When you were growing up?
Yeah. So I started varsity basketball as a freshman there at St. Gen and took a lot of heat from that. The coach, man, Neil, he did a amazing job trying to say, here's this young kid. The old school rules back then, you don't play until you're a junior, senior. He broke that mold there back in 95 of I'm playing the best guys, and they didn't like that too much. And it was fine when I was younger, the freshman, sophomore year, but going sophomore year, and the seniors were really giving me some grief. And then my grandpa, he wasn't doing real well. And just the life over there was bad. I got some profanity written on my car, and just everybody it was an interesting time back then. And so I ended up moving with my grandpa back to Moberly, Missouri, and went there for a year while he was going through all his stuff, and couldn't play because I was ineligible for the second half of my sophomore year, or junior year, I should say. And then we moved to Chester, Illinois, my senior year.
And that's kind of where you graduated from too, right?
That's where I graduated high school from, yeah.
Tell us about playing football your senior year, because I don't know if did you play football before this period of time?
Yeah, no, I was a basketball player. I was a pretty dang good basketball player, and my goals were always to go to Mizzou. That was just my goal all the time. I guess we should take a step back because we skipped through high school of what my story leads to is in high school, like I said from the beginning, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of things. I never had a pair of Nikes growing up. I had what we needed. We had what we needed. I can never say that we weren't poor, but we were just poor enough. And my cousin, he was a wild boy in Columbia, Missouri, and he hung out with all the cool kids that I thought at that point in time thought they were cool. They were a couple years older than me, and man, you go down there and they had all the girls and they had all the friends, and it's kind of everything I wanted to be. And he was selling some drugs back then, and I caught on that life. And that kind of was what kind of transpired there in St. Genevieve, was when my cousin would send me back with a little quarter-pound of weed or whatnot, and I would go out and try to sell it and try to make a little money so I could, at that point, think I was cool. And there was a lot of turmoil going on in St. Genevieve, a lot of racists, a lot of things going back and forth. I've always had an ability to stand up and say what I thought. And they had a town meeting then, and my sophomore year there, I went against the police and all that kind of stuff. And I remember we were driving around, and you go back and forth from the park to McDonald's and just take the loop the whole time. And I got pulled over, and the police officer said, "Hey, we know what you're doing. It's not good, but we're going to let you do it as long as you keep our name out your mouth and just go play sports and keep it moving." That was kind of a hall pass to sell drugs when you're in high school, when the police officers are letting you do that stuff. And I dabbled with that, and then I moved to Mobley, and then went through that transition. And yeah, I only played basketball. And then when we moved to Chester, when we were moving over there, the coach came in there, and he came to the house and was saying, "We really want this kid to play football," to my dad. And when they were doing all that, I was like, "I don't play football, coach." And he said, "Yeah, you're an all-state track guy. You're a great basketball player. And just so you know, I'm your football coach, basketball coach, and your track coach. So, you know, we want you to try it." And I did, ended up loving it, pretty green, real green. And I was like, maybe this is my path. And then I got a scholarship to go to Missouri Valley in Marshall, Missouri. And I took that. I wasn't the best school kid, and I wasn't the best kid. So it was one of those, here's my option. And went to Mo Valley for a year, started at every position, every sport they had. And I was like, okay, I screwed up. I'm a little too good here. So I moved to Joliet Junior College. That's outside Chicago. And went there 1 year and played football there, and got the chance to go walk on at Missouri. And while I was in Chicago, I met some people I shouldn't have met. Wish I would have never met, but I started doing some even more things I shouldn't have been doing. And when I got to Missouri, everything was going great. Was going to be close to being able to play, and went up and broke my leg, tried to go snowboarding for the first time. That kind of sent me into a tailspin there. During that time, was selling a lot of drugs at that time, and just haven't had a baby on the way, and things just kind of went the wrong way. And that's when I got busted there, my junior year of college.
So tell us about that. I remember we had talked a few weeks ago about the difference between the state and federal court, about him giving you, I think, kind of probation for that, where it could have been
yeah.
some years in prison.
So during that time, I never was like a gangster or a drug user. I just, growing up younger and not having, it's hard for me to say it out loud because it's like we had everything we needed. We never went without a meal, but I always wanted more. And going to Chicago and meeting the people I shouldn't have met, I've always been smart, and I've always been a hustler. So it's always been one of those, I just took it and started making money and couldn't stop. And during those times, you think you're doing the right thing. I was giving money to the church. I was giving money to single moms. I'm like a modern day Robin Hood. You're not. You're a drug dealer. You're not a good person. But I just had my kid. I guess the reality was I got to be pretty dang big without anybody really knowing. And I let this kid come with me one time to check it out, to check out what the process looked like. And when he came back, I gave him some drugs, and he ran off and had a big old party, and they got busted. And then he told on me. And I knew about it because he called me. They let him go, and they called me, and they said, he was like, "Hey, I ratted on you." And at this point, I'm pretty cocky. I'm like, "Yeah, man, there's nothing they can do to me." And I'm sitting around there at the house waiting for them. And I'm like, "Man, are they going to come?" And I told my wife at the time, I said, "Hey, I got to get out of here so that maybe they don't come here. They just come get me somewhere else." And I left, and nothing came. And I drove back down, and all of a sudden I seen the whole world of feds and everything else down in my house. And I just drove up there and obviously got arrested. And at the time, there were some things that they did. They came in a little early, so the warrant wasn't quite served the right way, and some things were going on during all that stuff. And so they arrested me, took me in, and basically an hour after they talked to my lawyer, an hour later I was walking out. I never got put in handcuffs. Just it was a weird ordeal. And then they were like, "Okay, we'll get back to you." And then 6 months later, they came and they said, "Okay, my lawyer was like, you're going to plead guilty to conspiracy against the United States, and you're probably going to do roughly 3 to 5 years." And we're just all prepared for that. And now, when you get busted for something like this, your whole life changes. That's all I needed was to get in trouble one time. Just get me in trouble once, and I probably won't do this anymore. But going those five years of being able to do it and not get in trouble, you just keep going. And so life is changing at that point, and we're going in. My daughter's one because it's a federal law, arrested by the feds, so it doesn't just happen right away. So they're like, it's probably best that you move up to Minnesota where your wife's from, and just get away from everything that you know. And so the year later, went to court, getting prepared to go spend 3 to 5 years in prison and those type of things. And there was a lot of commotion in the courtroom when I was sitting there, and everybody's looking back and forth and nobody's knowing what's going on. The judge gets up and leaves and then comes back, and it's making me nervous, making everybody's just not knowing what's going on. And he comes and sits down and hammers this thing. He says, 3 years probation, $100 court costs. Don't ever want to see you here again. And the whole place is quiet except the prosecutor, and he stands up and he's yelling. And the federal judge, he's probably in his 80s, maybe he was in his 70s, but he seemed real old when I was looking at him. And I'm looking at my lawyer, and he's telling me that's how good I am. He's acting like he did it. He didn't. I don't know if the judge misspoke or what happened there, but he had no interest in my case anymore. He was ready for the next one. And we walked out, and I had 3 years probation and $100 court cost. And that kind of put me on the trajectory of really trying to be a better man and a better person.
Now, share with the listeners, if you're 3 years in probation, what does that mean? I know you're working with a probation officer.
Yeah, so I'm in Minnesota and working with the probation officer, and obviously at first they're like, you can't do drugs, you can't drink, you can't. They give you these letters, and it's like, I don't know, maybe it's A through Z, I don't know, but when you first start off, you might have 15 letters to your name. So if you hear your letter, you got to go in and submit a drug test and do all those type of things. And that was never an issue for me. That after about a year, they were like, you're on the straight and path. We're pretty good with you. And then I went down to one letter, and maybe once a year it was like go in and check. But at that point in time, what do you do? I'm a 23-year-old guy with a daughter, and I'm a felon, and so I'm find a job. I start selling filter queens. It's a vacuum cleaner, and I become the number one vacuum salesman in the country, and selling these vacuums. And that was a fun thing because you start getting some swag back to yourself, being like, you're all right, you're gonna be fine. Like selling vacuum cleaners, and you become the number one in the country. You get a little confidence, and then the mortgage industry starts going during that time. And then that's probably that 2006, 2005, 6. And I started doing mortgages then. And then I was really good at that. It's sad to say it, you could be a felon and sell mortgages back then. It's probably why it all went to hell in a handbasket back then. Now, I didn't do anything illegal at that point in time because I was afraid to go 71 and a 70. So no, I became a mortgage broker, did really awesome at that, kind of getting my feet together. Now, during that time, I had to back up. The wife, she was younger. She was 21 and wanted to still go party and hang out, and I was done with all that. And so that kind of put a wrench on our marriage. So we ended up divorcing when my daughter was 2, my oldest daughter. And all I had to do was work and take care of her then. So I just worked every day and became a pretty good mortgage broker, started buying houses. And then I decided to go out on my own. And 2008 is when I went out on my own. probably late 2007, and I started opening my own company and was doing great. Everything was going great. And then the big crash happened and mortgage brokers couldn't stay in business. I had a hard time staying in business, had 5 or 6 homes that mortgage brokers couldn't, that all my rentals were with mortgage brokers and they couldn't pay their bills. So there's at 27, here comes my next oh crap. What's going to happen here? And during that time, you just go and you're like, what can I do? What can I do? I try to go get jobs everywhere. At that time, everyone was trying to get jobs, right? And here's a stack of mortgage brokers. And then here's a stack with a guy, a mortgage broker and a felon. I couldn't get a job nowhere, absolutely nowhere. I just kept thinking and praying, what can I do? What can give me a career? And my cousin owned the Smoking Chicks barbecue down in Missouri. And I was like, man, the only barbecue place up here, and this is in 2008, 9 in Minnesota. I'm like, I don't see a lot of them. Famous Dave's, some, but I live south of the river. I live in Lakeville, so there wasn't any where I was at. And I was like, I'm going to open a Smoking Chicks barbecue. Now, before I get too far into the story, I'm off probation now. So I'll go deeper into the story now, but I'm off probation. Everything's good. Life's good. We go down and I call my cousin. I'm like, I want to open a Smoking Chicks barbecue. And he said, okay, all right, we'll do that. Or no, he goes, you can do that, but come on down and see what I'm doing right here.
And you have no background in
I have no background.
A restaurant or like a barbecue?
I just eat good. I never worked in a restaurant a day in my life. And the guy was like, my cousin was like, no, this is Chick, Orschland. And he owned Smoking Chicks barbecue. And he's like, come on down. We're doing roots and blues. I'm like, cool. So I went down there and he's catering Willie Nelson's catering event thing he's having. And go there and meet Willie and maybe have done something I shouldn't have done again. A little illegal back then, but smoked a joint with Willie Nelson and and watched my cousin cater it all. And I was very enamored by it. I was, oh, is this what you do? And he was like, yeah, man, everybody needs food. And I was like, you're right. And this is then 2008-9 when felt like the world was ending. But he was right. Everybody needs food. And I was like, I want to open a Smoking Chicks barbecue. And he said, looks at me dead in the eye and says, absolutely not. You're not opening under my name because you are going to fail. And I'm like, I don't fail at much things I do. Look at I might get in trouble, but I don't ever fail. And he goes, here, I'll give you all the things I did right and all the things I did wrong. And you can call me anytime, but you just can't open my name. I was like, that sounds fair to me. And there was a gas station it's called the McStop out in Lakeville. So it's a truck stop. Yep. And I kept going by there and I was like, God, I'm like, you gave me this harebrained idea. This didn't come from me. It had to come from you. And I drove up there and I saw the empty space and I called the guy and I said, I was honest with the guy that owned the building. I said, I have no clue what I'm doing. I think it's a great idea. Your place has been empty for 4 or 5 years. I'm pretty confident I can make it. I'm pretty confident I can run a good business. And I think you can too. So he built out the restaurant and did all the things. I went down to Cordon Bleu, downtown Minneapolis, and I said, hey, I'm opening a restaurant. I know nothing about cooking. I know nothing about anything. Who's coming with me? It was right at their graduation. And these 2 girls were like, we'll come work for you. And that's right where the Baldy's barbecue transpired on a little whim of an idea.
Now, those 2 girls still with you, or were they?
No, the one worked for me for 13 years, and then she moved on. And actually, they're both doing their own catering and things like that now, but they were both with me for a very long time.
So your start, can you inspire them about how bold it was for you to go to that restaurant and then ask?
Just ask. Yeah, just ask. My grandfather, what I've always lived my life with and by is a closed mouth never gets fed. And he used to always say that to me. And it's always stuck through my life of just don't be too proud to ask and don't be too cocky to not ask, or just don't be too arrogant that you don't need help. And so if you ask, you never know what a guy or a person will say or do. And I've always lived by my life like that. So I got those two girls to come work for me, and it went all right. Like, it rough at first. They were going to their house and grabbing pans because I didn't have what they needed. And but we fought through and we made it. And after 2 years, I went to go try to get my liquor license after opening up, and they denied me. And they denied me because of my past. And I understood it, but I felt some sort of way because during that time made a real change in my life. I got remarried right before I opened Baldy's, the new Baldy's, and I was a youth leader at the church. I was coaching football at Lakeville South. I just felt like I was in my past. And the council just rained on my parade a little bit. And restaurants, to survive, you need the alcohol to help it do it. And I remember when they denied me, I was like, I'm gonna run for council one of these days, just to show people. And eventually, they gave me my beer and wine license, and so they kind of gave me a probationary wine and beer license. It just doesn't allow you to sell alcohol, or it doesn't allow you to sell full strength beer either. But they did end up giving it to me about 2 years later, and I got the full license. That's when I decided Donald Trump was running for president, and I was like, this might be the time for me to run for city council. I go, maybe I won't win, but I can put my I can put my name on a presidential voting ballot. And I was like, that would be pretty cool. And I did, and I early voted, and I was out of town when they were doing all the counting of the ballots, and the mayor calls me and says, you won. And I said, I won what? Because I forgot. I didn't even think I had a chance of winning anything. And I won, and I was a councilman for Lakeville for 4 years, and that was great. And Baldy's I've tried to open other ones that haven't worked. I opened Baldy's Tailgate back 3 years ago, and in 2023, things have been going great. God has really led me down a great path. I have two other kids now in seventh and eighth grade, and the oldest daughter, Haley, she's 23. She's doing great, and everything's going in the right direction right now.
Were you talking about like second chances too? And when you started the barbecue restaurant, were you the chef? Did you do it? Did these two
Yeah,
women
no, I
that you
was.
hired, did they do some of the cooking too? Or
Yeah, no, they did all the cooking.
oh, they did all the cooking.
Yeah, yeah. I just took my cousin's stuff and kind of perfected. I'm a big guy. I like to eat, so I like
Yeah.
good things. And no, I just hired the people, and I was the best pulled pork puller and dishwasher and cleaner guy that could be. I let the professionals do the right stuff, and I just, whatever they told me to do, I did it.
Did those two ladies have any background in like barbecue or
No, we had a great base. Like I said, my cousin gave me all the things to do, his recipes. He gave me the whole thing, and he was successful. As long as you follow suit a little bit. And being at the truck stop, I used to always say I could have pissed off all of Lakeville and still have been okay, because we had new truckers in every day that they had to eat somewhere, and McDonald's and Subway, they eat that everywhere they go. So they liked having the barbecue right there at the truck stop.
and you said you started the catering business. When was that? 2023?
No, 2009. No,
The catering at the same
Yeah,
time.
we did everything at the same time. Yep. I had a food
Okay.
truck and catering and the restaurant.
So you
I
kind
went
of started it all at one time?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Wow. Was that pretty challenging to start all at one time? Because you got a food truck, you got to just maintain all that.
What's wild about it is you hear all the horror stories of restaurateurs and how hard it is and how, this and that. And not that I've definitely not made millions of dollars, but I bought myself a good job that I was the one in charge of. And what I've put in is what I'm getting out. And taking a bet on myself, saying, you know what, I can do anything as long as I work hard. I think that's true for any person, anything they want to do. You can make a career out of anything if you work hard. If you don't work hard, you're not going to make it much in anything. I've always had a full faith in myself, and I feel like people that surround me have always had full faith in me that I'm going to succeed and keep going until I can't. And if I can't, I'll do something different. Yeah, no, we've done it since 2009. And that you kind of asked one day about the Gophers, and I said, I coach Mitch Leidner. He's a quarterback for the Gophers. And I was just opening Baldy's and getting that going and coaching these guys. And they loved it because their coach opened a restaurant. They could come and hang out and do those type of things. And Mitch was getting recruited by the Gophers, and I would always tell him, hey, if they take you, if they get you, you got to make sure you tell them about your boy. Make sure you tell them Baldy's coming with me. And he sure did. He told him, he's like, hey, I got this guy that does barbecue. And the coach was like, heck yeah, bring him on out. And ever since, I've done the Gophers, started with football, and now we're pretty ingrained with the Gopher sports and even academics and everything. We cater a lot of things down there. And it's surreal, actually. And when I take a step back and I look, I'm 46 now. Not old, but I'm not young anymore. I got a lot of life to live. But I look at it and if everything would have happened the way it happens to some other people, just what I got arrested for and charged with, another person would have got so much other stuff and maybe have been in jail for 15, 20 years. And by the grace of God, like I didn't. And I got charged with one thing and only had to, and I look at my life and I'm like, man, I've really been able to do a lot of things that were goals and aspirations that if life would have turned a different way back in 2002, none of it is here. And I've really spent a lot of my life being like, how can I make sure young kids are still don't think my story is too cool? That they're like, oh man, if Brian or if Baldy can get away with selling drugs and not go to jail and do all that stuff, that it's not, I can get away with it too. I don't know. No, God put something special in my life to be able to do some things and be a good testament and be a good steward of the things he's given me to do. And so I've really tried to exonerate hard work, do it lawfully, and just those type of things. I don't ever try to get too preachy to anyone, but I do think God gave me a second chance and maybe a third and a fourth at the same time. But it's been a great life so far, and I look back and I'm just at awe of the things I get to do.
The cool thing is you're able to kind of share that and speak to if it's youth or whatever age group it might be, because I have men and actually boys, I mean, like adolescents all the way up to, you name it, ages 60, 70 and above that listen to the podcast. So they're able to kind of take a few nuggets from this or just some lessons learned from this about, like you said, man, the impact God had on you and being given a second chance.
Yeah, everybody's going to fall. Everybody's going to fail. It's just, that's life. And it's really based on how do you just keep going and knowing that you can fail again and again, but just the more of just having faith and having people around you that aren't pulling you down, that are building you up, and the people you surround yourself with is a huge thing of where you're going to be in life and where you're going to go. If you got cheerleaders behind you and you got a strong mentality of, I can do this. And if you can't, I can do the next thing, just never settle, right? Because when you settle, I think that's when the devil can creep in on you. When you settle and you stop making progress, you stop believing in yourself. I think that's when the devil kind of comes in and says, hey, you're a loser. You're a drug dealer. Nobody's ever going to look at you. No one's ever going to look at you this way because you're a drug dealer. I still have people to this day to come up to me and say, what do you think you are? You're a drug dealer. I'm like, 20 years ago. Yeah, but I don't live by that and I don't act like that. And I don't want to even associate myself with that, but it is part of my past and I live with it. And I'm hoping at some point the tide's turned. I've helped more people than I hurt whenever I was doing the stuff that I was doing wrong.
What's your journey and just the journey along the way, all the lessons you learned, and how many more people you can relate to? You can relate to those people maybe looking at, they want to sell drugs or be that hustler. Nothing wrong with being the hustler in a way that you can kind of learn some things from it, but or ones that have been in the drugs, want to get out of it, or just don't think they don't think of second chances. Or it's, man, God's going to give you a second chance. And now it's up to you and who you kind of surround yourself with. Because you talked about that too, about who you're associating with, who surrounds you and really pours into you.
It's the older I get, the more and more I realize music's probably my own vice's hardest vice. I listen to Christian music. Obviously, I'm pretty good. I'm feeling God and I'm thanking God. And I put on some country music and thinking about a beer and a long country road. But if I play rap music, like for me, for my vice, if I put on gangster rap music, it instantaneously makes me think I'm a thug, that I'm a drug dealer and I'm this and I'm that, and the swag and the conversation, how I speak and how I act. It's like instantaneous. And it's like, really, like music, just music, what
Mm-hmm.
you're putting in your brain, what you're putting in your heart, what you're putting in around yourself it really does play a factor. And then same thing with who you surround yourself with. If you run around with a bunch of dumb guys still trying to party or cheating on their wives or doing drugs or gambling, if you're around all that stuff, you're going to be in it. You're going to do it. And it's hard to get away from it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how certain words in a song, or I wouldn't say like all the rap songs, but certain kind of, maybe you listen to a gangster kind of rap, or it has something with drugs, and it takes you back to your past of like
Immediately.
how you were in their past. And I don't think people understand that about certain people you surround yourself with. There may be certain messages you hear, or like through music or something like that, how it can take you to that past,
Yeah.
which can really take you down a and not a good path
Yeah.
sometimes, because it might not just be that for that moment, it might be for that day, and all of a sudden it becomes a week or a month and a year, and it's, gosh, what happened in these last couple of years?
Yeah. And those have been on and off struggles a lot. Been married now for 18 years, and she's a woman of God, and she knows my past, and that it's good and it's bad because she's able to know whenever you, any person tries to walk
Mhm.
well all the time. We're all human and we all walk down wrong paths every once in a while. And she can tell, and she'll be like, "What have you been listening to? What have you?" Because even how I'll talk to her, she's okay, wannabe. You ain't bad. You're not who you think you are. And she calls it out. She's like, "You've been listening to rap music the last couple of days because the sun's out and your window's down. And you think you're gonna go be a 22-year-old." And I'm like, "Gosh dang it, you're right."
That reminds me of a teammate of mine in college. He was in my podcast, one of the earlier podcasts, but when he grew up in the south side of Chicago, and all he knew was like 4 blocks to the north, south, east, and west. And they went back to Chicago, the south side, and he stood on the porch of his home, and all these guys came up and talked to him. Hey, man, hey, how you doing? What have you been up to? And his girlfriend was there listening to him for the like 2 hours. And after the 2 hours, she said, "Who are you?" All you did is you speak negativity out of every guy that came up to you about who's doing drugs, who's getting out of prison, who's going into prison, who's doing. It's like you didn't speak any. I thought you were supposed to empower, kind of like, and uplift these men. It's all you're speaking is all negativity for 2 hours. And it was like just a wake up call for him at that moment.
Yeah.
Again, a defining moment for him that kind of changed his life. That he didn't realize she had to tell him that and speak truth to him. Who are you?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Yeah. What are you
absolutely.
doing?
And I'm sure others too, like yourself and all that, you have those moments, and someone needs to call you out, like, hey, who are you? Or what are you listening to? Or
Yeah,
why are you saying things like that?
I think not only your friend group, you also have to have someone who's not afraid for you to be mad at them. Someone who is that maybe you don't have to admire them but just someone that will call your bluff and say, "Hey, why are you going to the bar every day? Or why are you going doing this every day?" Someone who will call you out because in today's world, it doesn't really feel like anybody wants to call anybody out and just check them, be like, "Hey, I see you. That's not what you want to do." And some people will tell you, beat off, screw off. I don't care what you say, but some people would be like, oh man, thanks. They might not tell you that. They might,
Yeah, that's right.
but they might leave and be like, "Oh man, that guy's right, or that girl's right, or I'm screwing up."
But I feel like there's a lot of even men are like crying out, or like even adolescents are crying out for someone to just speak truth into them. And people are just too afraid. Oh, I might offend them. What might they say back? And that's, you just need to tell them straight
Right.
up. And I think some are actually looking for that. You never know. They might react to maybe the way you don't want them to react, but if that seed might be planted in them, and they
Yep.
might think about it along the way. Like that next day, that next week, that next could be years from now.
Yeah, I don't get real deep into the Bible, right? I love Christ and I
Hmm.
do the best I can. But what I always feel like God always puts on my heart is back to the same thing. You don't know, and you said it too, seeds. God says to bring people to his light, right? You don't know what that means. That might just mean, hey, Roger, saw you at the bar a couple times. And that's all you said. But now you leave and you're like, man, am I, you're like, I love God. Why am I going to the bar all the time? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? You didn't say anything about God. You didn't do anything. You
Hmm.
just planted a seed. You said something. You weren't a closed mouth. You said something. You asked something. You said something. And God's seed got planted and something happened. And you don't know what you're reaching to. I don't think you have to hit people with Bibles. I think you just have to be like a farmer and just plant seeds.
And you make a good point there. I think everybody wants to be acknowledged, however that might be, and kind of appreciate it. It's like they mean something, that you're at least acknowledging them. And you just don't know. It's like you said, you're planting that seed that weeks later, months later, years later, they might just kind of have a wake up call
Yep.
just because of one, maybe acknowledgement.
Yeah, and you don't know, like in my position, it's really funny. It's like a lot of people that know me, they just laugh all the time. I always wanted to be famous. I always thought I was going to be eh, younger, thought I was going to be John Gotti. Older, I thought I was going to be an NFL football player. Now I think I'm going to be the president. Like I've always had these aspirations of being someone, quote unquote. And my wife laughs because I own just a barbecue place. We are not rich. We are not 200 franchises. It's one restaurant, one thing. But God took my hair away and made me baldy. And the recognizable ability of being someone, people walk up, oh, hey, what's up, Baldy? And I just laugh. And my wife looks at me and she goes, oh, you really think you're somebody, right? But the ability to know that just my rinky dink little restaurant and kids and adults and saying, hey, Baldy, that's my chance to say, hey, to that person, hey, how's this going and how's that going? And it's given me a platform, even though it's my bald head, to go talk to someone and just be a mentor, be somebody they want to be like, just all these different things that all my dreams are starting to come to fruition about what I wanted to be. And God's done a lot of work in me, and it's been a great journey so far.
And your restaurant is called Baldy's Restaurant, right? Or
Baldy's Barbecue. Yep.
barbecue, that's it. Yeah, not
Yep.
restaurant, barbecue. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, let's get back to that barbecue again. I'm a big Hawkeye fan. I know the Gophers didn't have a good win on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm with these
Uh,
guys. I'm with the football team a lot. Every week I'm with them. I serve all the coaches on Mondays, and I'm one of those fans, like win or lose, I'm a ride or die with them. And after that Nebraska game, we went down to down to Iowa. We went in there full of vigor, thinking it was going to be just like Nebraska. And boy, that was a tough one.
and so when you go down with them, and did you feed them when you were down there, like your
No,
barbecue, or
no, that was just me being a fan. I
okay,
go to,
just being a
yep,
fan?
just being a fan. I feed them on Mondays of the week. Yep.
Okay. And is that kind of the case with some of these other teams with
Yeah, so
Minnesota too?
like hockey, I feed them every Friday night after their game.
Oh, after their game. Okay.
So yeah, I'm in the locker room with those guys and getting to know those guys, and it's really fun to get to know all these athletes and kind of live like I can finally say it. I never amounted to what I thought I'd amount to as being an athlete. I had all God's talents, but I just chose other paths and other things to do wrong. But I get to vicariously live through all these guys and see how college football goes and what these guys go through and get to be friends with them. And they come back, they go to NFL, and I'll be on the sideline and people rock come up to me, what's up, Baldy? And Max Williams and all these greats that I fed around the way, and they'll come up and what's up, Baldy? It's really fun. It's these athletes are everybody says, oh, they get paid and all this stuff. They're still young men and young women, and they work hard, and they're still kids, right? They're still good people. They're just young people.
And I'm sure being around the Gophers through the sports, you get a lot of alumni that come back. You get a chance to meet, if it's
Yeah,
in football or I know I had
yeah,
Ben Tech on just a few weeks ago, and I'm sure
Yeah, I've gotten to know Ben real well, man. He's a class act. Love that guy. Like he gave me a jersey to hang up in my restaurant, and I got Daryl Thompson up here, Tanner Morgan. I got a lot of these guys that throw me a jersey and be like, "Baldy, I put this up at your place," and it's been real fun. It's funny. About 5 years ago, I was sitting out in the courtyard with Coach Fleck, and we're just sitting there, and we've met. And again, I'm just a barbecue guy. I just feed him food. I'm not a big time donor. I'm not, but he's just sitting there talking to me. Good 20-minute conversation. About 15 minutes into it, yeah. So when did you play here? And I was like, "Oh, coach, I've never played here. I hope you keep using me." He goes, "Oh man, no, yeah, for sure." But he goes, "This whole time with everybody here knowing who you are, I thought you were some old time great gopher." I was like, "Nope, nope, just your local barbecue guy."
Oh, that's an amazing story. And just all those connections you make along the way too with them. It just set the record straight. If it's not for the Hawks, I root for the Gophers.
No, there
So,
you
but
go.
if it's
There you
Hawks
go.
and Gophers, sorry, Gophers, root for the Hawks. Other than
Hey,
that, I'm going to root for the Gophers.
hey, I still say MIZ soda. I still bleed that black and gold. Like Coach Kill told me one time, he goes, "Oh, we played him in the Citrus Bowl down in Florida." And he comes up to me, he said, "So who are you going to root for?" I'm like, "Coach, I'll bleed black and gold." He goes, I'll never forget. He goes, "Yeah, but who pays your bills?" I said, "Very true." So that's when the MIZ soda T-shirt came out. I was like, I got to root for them both.
Oh, Mizzou just I mean, they're having a good year this year. And
Having a good year.
that,
The quarterback
that,
just went down. Yeah,
oh, and that loss, who were they playing? They were playing
they just played Vanderbilt this last weekend.
Vanderbilt. That's right.
Yeah,
Like a last second, was it
last
a
second. They
pass?
almost tied it up last second, but
Oh, the guy caught it like in the 1 yard line.
2 inches short, literally. Yeah.
That
What
would
do
have
you?
been the win, right? If he
No,
scored.
they would have just tied it.
Oh, they would have tied it. Okay.
Yeah, they would have just tied it. Yep.
All right. Let's wrap this up. And one other thing I want to ask you about, some shout outs to some people. What are some, you mentioned a few, but some influential people in your past or present time that really made an impact on you? I know you can probably name quite a few, but
Yeah, I can name a lot. Even though I like growing up, my grandfather was very influential to me. My uncle Don Orschlin, who his father and uncle, they created the emergency brake, and that's where like I told you at the beginning of the story, that I kind of watched them live. His side of the family, my uncle Don, I could see him all the time just working hard, even though he had millions of dollars. He just always worked hard, and that was always something that I always was cognizant to that, and seeing people and how they did things. And my father, for sure, for stepping up and taking me under his wing and adopting me and making me his own. And in the business industry, Steve Delich, he got me into going to mortgages and held my hand during that time when I was on probation. And he took a chance with me and said he'd hire me and those type of things. And then Randy Berg, who is a local Minnesota or local Lakeville guy, he's the guy I went to with the harebrained idea of, "Hey, I want to open a restaurant, but I've only ate at them." So he's the one who said, "I believe in you." And he built out his business and made it for me. And then just the leadership that's been around me since then, Jeff Warner, on a godly basis. He was an influence when I was going through that kind of stuff. And now it's just people I see. Like, you could not even be famous, and I just see how you move and operate. And I might not say nothing to you, but I'm emulating what I'm seeing, try to make myself better and be able to make other people better.
I appreciate that and all those shout outs to all those you mentioned. I'm sure there's many more too. Wrapping this up, what are some final thoughts that you want to leave with men as they continue on their journey?
For us men, I think we really need to be men. Point blank, we need to be men, and we need to be leaders, and we need to be leaders of our homes and of our kids, and not let the internet be our leader of our homes, and not let phones be the leader of our homes. And we need to get, a lot of guys do great in the word, but there's guys like me that I still look and be like, I need to get deeper into God and deeper into knowing the how of what I needed to be a great man to my family and to my kids and to my environment. I have 55 employees. That am I a good leader to them? Am I someone that they can look up to and try to emulate? And can I teach the young girls and guys, like, here's how he moves, here's how he operates, and to be good adults and be a bonus and not a drag to our communities, and have perseverance. One day doesn't make you or break you, and just to keep moving and a closed mouth never gets fed. So if you need something, ask. You might get no, you might get a yes, and you never know where that'll take you. And if you wouldn't have said nothing, you'd never know.
Brian or Baldy's Barbecue, thank you so much for your willingness and really your willingness and to share. And where can listeners find you and follow you?
Oh, Baldy's Barbecue is on all my social medias, and we're in Lakeville, and it's a clash. I have two restaurants that I made into one. So it's Baldy's Barbecue and Baldy's Tailgate Bar. It's one restaurant downtown Lakeville, and we do the best we can. We're not going to please you every time, but we work hard at providing good food and good atmosphere. And you can find me on the sideline or somewhere at a Gopher game most of the time too.
And who do the Gophers play this week? Is it Michigan State?
We got Michigan State.
Yep. That's right. Spartans coming into town.
It's a get right. We're at home. We're undefeated at home so far this year.
All right, that's a wrap with Baldy, and I want to thank you for being a part of Men Pursuing More podcast.
I appreciate you and appreciate the people out there that's just taking one day at a time.
Hey, thanks for listening to Men Pursuing More podcast. Don't forget to follow us at maupincoaching.com.